You're sitting at a coffee shop, the usual chatter in the background, the clinking of cups, the low hum of people talking. Across from you sits an old friend, someone you trust. You haven't seen each other in years, but you know that feeling, that inner urge to finally share something you've been carrying alone. Your friend leans in, genuinely curious, and you finally say, "I've been struggling." The courage it takes to speak up, to make yourself vulnerable, is powerful. And it's one that countless people face every day. Today, I want to talk about the journey of overcoming stigma to share your mental health story, why it's such a profound experience, and how it can change not just your life, but the lives of others. Let's take a step back and think about why talking about mental health can feel so daunting. Stigma. It's one word, but it holds a lot of weight. Stigma makes people hesitate. It makes them think, what will people think of me? Or will I be seen as weak or broken? Consider Emma. She's in her early 30s, a hard worker, a dedicated friend. For years, she dealt with anxiety, but never spoke about it. She always told herself, people have it worse, or I don't want to be a burden. And these thoughts grew over time, like vines wrapping around her mind, making her feel smaller and more isolated. Stigma thrives in silence. And the irony is, the more we keep silent, the more the stigma grows. Emma felt this pressure until one day, in a small act of bravery, she opened up to a coworker who had casually mentioned therapy. She thought, maybe this is a safe person to talk to. And in that moment, she began her journey of sharing and overcoming. It's often said that the hardest part of any journey is the first step. With mental health, that step is acknowledging it for yourself. Realizing, this is a part of my life and it's okay to seek support. The next step is choosing who to share it with, which can be tricky. It might be a friend, a family member, or even a therapist. Think of it like walking across a bridge. You're leaving behind the weight of secrecy and stepping into a space of openness. But you don't have to cross that bridge all at once. You can take small steps. Maybe you start by telling someone, I've been dealing with some stress. Then, as trust builds, you can share more. For Emma, sharing her story didn't mean diving into every detail of her experience. It was gradual, unfolding piece by piece as she grew more comfortable. Over time, she realized that sharing her story actually lightened her load. She wasn't alone anymore. Her friends and family were there, helping her carry it. Sharing your mental health journey is not only an act of self-empowerment, it's a gift to others too. When you share your experiences, you create a ripple effect. Your courage becomes a beacon for others who might be struggling quietly, like you once were. I remember another story about a young man named Mike. He was going through a rough patch, facing both depression and anxiety. He'd kept it to himself for years until one day he heard someone else share their mental health story. It was a small comment in a meeting, but it was enough to make Mike feel seen and understood. It was enough for him to think, if they can talk about it, maybe I can too. After that moment, Mike began to open up to his friends, and eventually he even shared his journey publicly. And what he found was that people didn't look down on him. They respected him for his bravery. Some of them even reached out, saying thank you. I've been struggling too, and I didn't know how to say it. Now, let's be real. Not everyone will react the way we hope. Some might not understand, some might even respond negatively, and that can hurt. But remember, sharing your mental health journey isn't about getting validation from others. It's about your healing and growth. Imagine that reactions are like different kinds of weather. Some days, people might respond like sunshine, warm and open. Other days, they might be like rain, uncertain or dismissive. But here's the thing, no matter the reaction, you're still standing. You're still stronger for sharing. In Emma's case, she faced mixed reactions. Some friends didn't quite understand why she couldn't just shake it off, while others were fully supportive. But she realized that the real victory was in her honesty. She'd taken ownership of her journey, and that in itself was freeing. One of the greatest things about sharing your story is the way it can transform you from within. When you put your journey into words, you start to see it more clearly. You see the challenges you've overcome, the strength you've built, the resilience that has carried you through. Emma once said, I didn't know how strong I was until I started talking about it. And this is a common experience. By acknowledging and sharing, you begin to reclaim your narrative. Your mental health story is no longer a weight or a shame. It becomes a testament to your courage. And then, there's the connection it fosters. People begin to see you more deeply, to understand that there's more to you than meets the eye. You find your tribe, those who resonate with your experiences. And with each conversation, stigma loses its grip a little more. To anyone listening who might be on the fence about sharing their mental health journey, I want you to remember this. Sharing doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. It's okay to let people in, to allow yourself to be seen. And yes, it can be scary, but you're not alone. Start small if you need to. Find one person you trust, someone who makes you feel safe, and take that first step. The journey may be gradual, but each step is a victory in itself. And as you share, remember, you're not just telling your story, you're changing lives, including your own. So, the next time you're at that coffee shop, sitting across from someone who cares, remember that moment. Take a breath, find your courage, and let your story be heard. You might just find that the world is more open, more compassionate, and more ready to listen than you ever imagined.